Hello, everyone. My name is Gary Gomes. I'm here to talk to you about Vedic astrology, what the planets are saying about the world in general, what they're saying about your particular sign, and also I'm here to discuss my own practice just a little bit. I've been a Vedic astrologer since 1990, roughly, uh, and you can look at my background in any of my links. I don't have links connected to this site, which is shame on me moment, but I'm on Facebook. I'm on, you can look at my biography on Facebook, on YouTube, on the actual website, etc. So I've been involved in this particular field for a few years. If you would like a reading, or if you'd like to speak with me, or even share ideas or even appear on the show, please contact me at 508 525 0001. That's the easiest way to get me. That's my personal phone number, and you can text me on that number as well, or you can contact me at GaryGomesG@gmail.com. I do readings. I do take students. I am taking new students for 2024 right now. And excuse me, wow, where did that come from? And I'd be happy to hear from you. Okay. So that having been said, let's talk about this chart. But first, I just want to make a personal observation about something I think is going on right now in politics in general and in the world in general. Uh, there was a fascinating um, discussion by Jamie Dimon, who, in case you didn't know, he's like one of the he's maybe the richest man in the world, certainly one of the richest men in the world. And he was just involved in a discussion in which he asked um, people to take, especially opponents, to take um, conservatives or MAGAs more seriously, to listen to their complaints, because he thought they had some good complaints or some good concerns. And I'm not necessarily taking sides, but I think one of the things that I've noticed over the past few years is that neither side has really taken time to listen to the other side. And that worries me. And it's not because I fear controversy or I fear enemy camps. It's just that there may actually be some valid ideas on one side or the other side. So, again, as you've heard me before, I never advocate for one side or the other side. I have my own opinions. I really keep those very much to myself. But I think one of the things, and again, a lot of people question Jamie Dimon's motives in doing this. And one of them is that he's looking to curry favor in case Trump does get elected again, which is entirely possible. But it's been something I've been saying for months, uh, and it's something I've been trying to cultivate over the past few years, because there's a general fear mongering going on that I've seen in politics, not only nationally but internationally over the past 2 to 3 decades or so. And as a matter of fact, going back really to the 80s, I think. And essentially, when we let fear override our reason, we end up with these unreasonable outcomes. So, um, and I can only think of, there were probably more, but I can only think of 4 occasions in which uh, either the country came close to abrogating um, its rights, and well, actually, there certainly were more. Uh, the shutdown of the Reconstruction after the Civil War was certainly one of them. So 5. Um, and but the Civil War suspended habeas corpus. So that was one. Uh, what Reconstruction essentially was essentially a abdication of um, the reforms that were being put in place uh, by the North as part of a political deal. Um, in the teens, Wilson enacted some measures, some of which um, are now being called up again. I think it was the Treason and Espionage Act, um, and um, Roosevelt was being encouraged to declare a dictatorship. Uh, and Roosevelt, to his credit, didn't do that. And last time I can think was the Bush uh, Patriot Act. And these were responses to crises. And I think given the circumstances of the times, understandable, not defensible, but understandable. And I'm worried that we're heading in a similar direction right now because everyone's panicking about what happens if we don't do something, or if someone gets elected, or if someone continues to serve in office, or so you're hearing this really what I would call um, um, panicky speech. And when you panic, you really don't think well. Okay, take it from I've been there, I've done it myself. So again, let's damp the tempers down. Let's calm down. Look at the choices we have. Choose logically, rationally, and let's not get too excited because there's nothing that can't be fixed. That's a double negative. There's nothing that can't be fixed. Okay. And that's literally true. No matter how many alarmists tell you that this can't be fixed, if it's broken, it will never go back. That's not true. It's a show. We're in a show right now. And it's really being done to either maintain control or disrupt control. And so look carefully at what you're being told. Think about how it will affect you personally, as opposed to how people tell you it will affect you. And you're smart people. You can put things together. So let's go to the chart and see where that's showing up. Okay. but I have faith in you. All right. So I'm going to try this a couple of times. And since I was interested enough in history to choose it as my first major in college, uh, one of my three. I think, you know, I actually looked at history as far as I could tell from what I could read what was true and what was false. And again, we know the interpretation is continually shifting, right? So so essentially you will have these ebbs and flows between one reaction to another reaction. Right now, we're having a big argument in Sagittarius. We're having a big political argument in Sagittarius between about Venus, Mercury, and Mars. So, as I told you many times before, this is a political combination. Sorry about that. When you have Mars and Mercury together, that's present in almost every politician and almost every actor. This is in the 10th house. This is in the world as this is an action in the world. Rahu's in Pisces, so you're going to have a lot of shakeup in foundational beliefs. What's proper, what's doctrinal, what's dogma, what's basically real, okay? Um, and Pisces is, I like to refer to Pisces as our ideal reality base, okay? Because it's essentially it's the place where things end and where things change and where things morph. So we're in perhaps the most intense change period during the Rahu Mahadasha for the United States. Okay. Saturn's over the moon in the United States chart, and Rahu's in the fourth house in the United States chart. So this will bring pretty major change over the next few months. Now, again, whether or not it's going to be um, a big event uh, like a president stepping down from office uh, uh, or somebody leaving the race unexpectedly or some health problem or uh, some physical attack. That's difficult to say, but there will be definitely right now government is under attack. Belief systems are under attack. Um, but again, both sides are lying about certain things. So again, that's one of the things I've just been trying to impress upon you. And you have to sit there and figure out what's important to you, how it's going to affect you in your daily lives, as opposed to um, people um, preaching at you about this will um, it's the end of the world if this person wins, and that's pretty much the statement being made on both sides, to be honest. Um, and neither of it's true. Neither of those assertions are true. Saturn is sitting on top of Jupiter. I can expect some economic shifts around April 8th, and I can also expect some shifts in government. Um, there may even be at least a potential for an attack around April or some kind of big event around April and again around October. But I think one of the things I'll be happy about is when May comes around and Jupiter's in this particular sign, we'll get a lot more truth about what's really happening. So that's a bit of a relief. The other thing is Saturn aspecting Jupiter does tend to put pressure on institutions. We've seen that not only in the United States but globally. That's happening, and over the next year and a half, you'll see a lot of shifts in institutions, and a lot of older institutions will be over the next 3 years or so kind of decimated. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean governments are going to collapse. It doesn't mean that people are going to, it doesn't mean anything like that, like like police states or anything like that. In certain parts of the world, yes. In the United States, no. The other thing is, but again, we can't start fighting each other if we're not really careful. So that's just a little bit of a warning. The other thing is, right now, as I'm talking to you, the moon's in Taurus. It's just past its most exalted position. And this also means that a lot of secrets which have been kept from people over the past few months are starting to come out just a little bit. Um, a lot of past actions which have been hidden. In terms of relations with other countries, and in terms of criticism about existing systems or existing patterns, there is some danger of a new health-related um, crisis emerging because K2's in Virgo. Again, as I said before, more connected with the stomach than with the lungs, and more connected maybe with the feet than with other parts. So feet and intestines. So maybe some kind of a bacterial illness. But I don't want to scare anybody. I'm just saying this is just a possibility. Okay, so don't go out and say, "Oh, I'm going to have to boil my water" and all this other stuff. Um, there is a possibility of some electrical disruption around April, maybe even earlier. And I think some of the inherent weaknesses in our structure, especially around October, our electronic structure and our media, our not our media, but our internet structure will be exposed both in April and October. But I am a little bit worried about the Saturn aspect on Jupiter because that does involve governments taking over too much power over freedom or over discourse. I won't say freedom, but over discourse. And Rahu Saturn conjunction. It's not really that horrible a combination. I can remember the first one that occurred was uh, that I can recall was in Capricorn in the early 1990s, and that disrupted home environments. Okay, so a lot of people changed. There was essentially a lot of what I would call reorganization and consolidation of wealth in the early 1990s. With Rahu and Saturn coming together in this combination over the next year and a half, I'm seeing it as more of um, an innovation-based economy, uh, more decentralized, more worker-friendly, but again, more technocratic too. So I think we can look for both good parts and bad parts of this. Um, I'm hoping against hope that this will mean some kind of move towards more income, not necessarily equality, but maybe less of a concentration of income in uh, higher bracketed earners. So less dominance of millionaires. But I think that's part of of a trend we've seen happening really for a very, very, very long time. And especially over the next um, few months or so. So again, that's why people are suspicious of people of comments like what Jamie Dimon came out with because he obviously doesn't want to lose his authority. But again, it doesn't mean that what he said uh, wasn't accurate. It just means that we can suspect his motives. But I think one of the things that we're going to look at is growing resistance, um, growing nationalism as a response to growing globalization. And um, I think, and I'm not saying that like these are conspiracies. These things happen um, from time to time. So we had, let's say, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, we had all the concentration of wealth in the United States. Um, people like J.P. Morgan and Rockefeller and Carnegie and other people around the world. So this isn't a new phenomenon. It's just that there are more of those kinds of people around right now. And uh, the gap in income is really starting to show itself very strongly. So does that mean more unionization? Possibly. Does that mean more of a split uh, from these large uh, multinational organizations? Well, we're sort of in for the ride right now, so I don't think that could be accomplished without major discomfort to a lot of people, not just rich people, but maybe some amelioration of it, maybe some more true reform rather than putting on a different image. Uh, Hopefully that's what we can hope for. That's what we can strive for. Okay. So this following week, expect a lot of disruption, a lot of panic, a lot of talking about trying to conserve things as they are at any cost. Saturn's aspecting Jupiter. A lot of fear about the government and what the government can do. A lot of misrepresentation about what the government can and can't do. Some increased pressure from the government, but also some flaws and some loss of power by government and media. And that's mainly because Mercury is going to move into this sign and then finally into this sign within a couple of months. So I think I'm relatively optimistic for the first time in a few months because I'm seeing some disruptions actually producing some positive changes as opposed to uh, tightening control. We'll see if I'm right. In terms of Earth issues, issues in Virgo, we can expect to see the next year and a half, especially around April through May, to be rather uh, earthquake and volcanically prone. That's already started. Uh, Air disasters because of Saturn in Aquarius, and some water disasters because of Rahu in Pisces. So let's move on from that to the individual charts. I just want to look at one more. I want to see if I can just pull one more country and spend just a couple of minutes on it. I've already spent a lot of time on here. So let's look. I think we looked at Argentina. Let me look. Yeah, so Argentina is a Libra country, kind of impulsive. Um, I think I did this a few weeks ago, but again, this will be a time when they're pulling in and restraining resources. And it'll be good for Argentina in the long run. It'll be painful in the short run, but it'll be good for Argentina in the long run. Um, and I want to see. That's like Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan. Okay, so this is a small country. A lot of you may not have heard of it. They're engaged in a surreptitious war right now in a moon Mahadasha, Saturn subperiod. So their luck is holding out for a little while. After May 26th, though, you're going to see them encounter some setbacks or some problems um, in the low level of activity they've been engaged in. Um, I also think they're they're already sort of drawn into the larger Israeli Hamas war because of their proximity to Lebanon. So I think actually we're going to see that war expand. Um, it'll expand to several countries around the Middle East. Uh, and I think it'll be a significant conflict. Um, and I'm not really, I think one of the things we have to focus on is figuring out ways to bring these parties together, um, as opposed to just so maybe military aid with conditions or something like that. Um, so again, one of the things I have to say is I know the Palestinian issue is a big issue. It's a and the Israeli issue is a big issue, and I'm not qualified. I'm not nearly knowledgeable enough about that part of the world um, to comment or criticize about it. So I take myself out of that discussion. But I do think um, there is a need for at least for some cooling down. Um, just so I'm not anti-Israeli, I'm not anti-Palestine, I'm not anti anybody. Um, it's it's just um, it's one of those things. Again, like I said, I don't want to say anything else because of that, because I know it'll be misinterpreted. All right, so let's look at the maps for Aries through Pisces for this week. Aries has Jupiter in the first house, so that's generally good, although Saturn is aspecting it. So again, there will be restraints on income for this particular sign. Moon is in the second house, though, so that's pretty good. So that should give a sudden uptick in income for this sign over the next week or so. Um, and we have Mercury, Venus, and Mars in the ninth house. That's the first lord in the ninth. That's generally a good pattern. The sun's in the 10th house, very good for career. Saturn's in the 11th house, less happiness from friends or from partners. And Rahu's in the 12th. So again, heavy expenditure patterns, but for at least for a good cause. For Taurus, so that's April 15th to May 15th. Taurus has moon. Oh, and next week I'll talk about the Chinese New Year. Okay, so that's the year of the dragon. It's my year. Yay. All right. All right. Taurus is uh is Moon is in Taurus in the rising sign. That's May 15th to June 15th. Jupiter's in the 12th house, and we see a lot of planets in the 8th house. Oh, one quick note: I didn't speak about relationship partners um, for Aries, and relationship partners will be rather sensitive or feelings rather easily hurt during this period. So be careful about that. Could spark arguments. But Taurus has Lord of Mars, Lord of the first house in the 8th, along with Mars. So again, a lot of relationship focus in the sign. Maybe relationship partners bringing in more money than you are, at least temporarily. But there's a strong desire for peacefulness, for progress in this sign. And Ketu's in the 5th, some problems with kids. Um, Sun's in the 9th. Again, good for home home life, and again, good for becoming a supervisor or a leader at work. Saturn's in the 10th, a lot of hard work. Rahu's in the 11th, again, don't trust friends. Jupiter's in the 12th, be careful of expenditures, especially big expenditures. For Gemini, excuse me, I almost said for Mercury. For Gemini, we have this little Yamagantika and Kodana in the first house. That's actually pretty good. Those are like little Jupiters and little Venuses. I don't often talk about these, but that's a pretty good conjunction. So this sign becomes more attractive, more conscious of their image. The Lord of the first house is in the 7th, along with Mars and Venus. So you'll have relationship partners lying to you or misrepresenting you or doing things that hurt you. Try to get past that. That'll be over in about 2 weeks. K2's in the 4th house. That tends to give some isolation or some split, some emotional detachment to the sign. It can, but also a certain amount of heartache. People with this sign should watch out for their stomachs and hearts as well during this period. Um, it can be something very simple like an accelerated heartbeat or something like that. Sun is in the 8th house, so the confidence of the sign is a little bit low right now, but hard work is dominates the sign. Rahu is in the 10th house. It's very good for um, career success and career notoriety. Jupiter's in the 11th house, should bring more money into the sign. Moon's in the 12th. More opportunities for um, rest, relaxation, pleasure. For Cancer, so that's June 15th, July 5th to July 15th. Cancer has Moon is in the 11th house, so good for financial gains. Sun is in the 7th house, good for financial gains for relationship partners too. Although relationship partners will seem a little stingy or greedy, excuse me. Um, K2's in the 3rd house, a lot of courage for this sign this month. Uh, Mercury, Venus, and Mars are in the 6th house, so you'll have to watch out for people attacking you or working behind your back. Sun is in the 7th, we've already discussed that. And Rahu's in the 9th, so there should be good potential for gains and even international prominence. Jupiter's in the 10th house, so good for financial gains and career expansion. For Leo, Leo is Leo's Lord is in the 6th house, so again, this sign has to watch out for possible or potential illnesses, for enemies, maybe even from the government. K2's in the 2nd house. And this sign will strive to make itself understood, but it can lose its temper pretty easily, so be careful about that. Good position for popularity, very good position for popularity for this sign. For, sorry, I keep hitting that button. For home life, I'm sorry. So home life looks fairly good. Children look fairly good, but um, people will be promising you things they can't really deliver, children in particular. So just be aware of that. Um, Saturn's in the seventh house, so vitality may be a little bit down for this particular sign this month. Rahu's in the eighth, so again, there may be some deceit or dishonesty from relationship partners. Jupiter's in the ninth house, and I think this can mean relationship partners will be hiding income from you. Moon is in the 10th house, so this should be very good for popularity, for um, success for the sign. For Virgo, K2's in the first house. So usually when K2's in the first house of a chart, that means all possibilities are available. So this is mid-September to mid-October. So that's a good sign. However, this sign will also be prone to health problems, uh, what I would call difficult to diagnose health problems. So it'll be sort of like the doctor will identify one problem, then he or she will identify another problem, and and I think it's going to be good because you'll at least have bring attention to like what an underlying problem is. Um, but you'll need special um, attention to health. Venus is in the second house, good for income. Uh, there's some desire to redo or reassess both career life and home life, maybe even redesign home. Sun is in the fifth. Children will be very dominant this month, very, and they'll be struggling a little bit too. Rahu's in the seventh. Relationship partner will be, I would say, a little bit uh, obsessed with fame or a little bit obsessed with relationships, or obsessed with the nature of the relationship. So whether or not they're getting their fair share of things. Um, that'll be the case really over the next year or so. So don't. That's that's really not that big a deal. Uh, Jupiter's in, but they will be anxious to form new partnerships, and that doesn't necessarily mean romantic partnerships. Just to keep that in perspective, it means that they'll be willing to have more social contacts and more active social life. Jupiter's in the eighth. That'll be black though for at least until April, I think, late April. And Moon is in the ninth house, so actually good for financial gains for the sign. For Libra, Libra has um, Mars, Venus, and Mercury in the third house. So there's a strong desire to push ahead, to move ahead, to progress for the sign. The sun's in the fourth house. That usually gives financial gains through the home or through um, home working from home. And Saturn's in the fifth house. Any hard work will be quite well rewarded. Rahu's in the sixth house. There'll be problems with health for this sign. And when I say problems with health, there'll be sort of like dizziness spells or confusion or maybe worry or anxiety about health. Uh, these really aren't major issues, but I would watch out for stomach problems the same way as I would encourage Virgo to look out for stomach problems. I would encourage Libra to look out for that as well. So Aries, Libra, and Virgo have stomach or intestinal issues. Jupiter's in the seventh house, so this will give a lot of opportunities to link up and work with new people. They'll be blocked for a little while, and they'll be interrupted for a little while. I've had that myself. Um, Moon's in the eighth house. The moon is exalted in the sign. That's great. So a lot of career life can be expanded by research into behind the scenes stuff or just uh, occult studies. And when I say occult studies, I mean things like astrology, uh, not black magic. Occult just means unseen. That's all it means, or hidden. Ninth house, Mercury's in the fourth house. I'm sorry. Yeah, ninth house, Mercury's in the third house, excuse me. And that means a lot of progress being made towards learning goals. That's where a lot of your focus will be on this month. And career life will be hidden a little bit until the middle of the week, and career life will come up much more strongly. Overall, this should be a good year for Librans in terms of career life, um, going really into 2025 and 2026. And let's see now, K2's in the 12th, so you have to watch out for spending carelessly or spending for the wrong things. Scorpio has um, Mars, Venus, and Mercury in the second house, so Scorpios will be tempted to lie. They'll be tempted to change relationship partners. Sun is in not really the wisest thing because if you change, you'll end up ruining your luck. So don't change. Mercury, Venus, Mars in the second house again, some potential for deceit, also some potential for deceit on the part of relationship partners. Okay, so again, this isn't, and when I say relationship partners, we're also talking about business partnerships, right? So it's um, it's not necessarily a a romantic thing. A lot of people tend to, when they look at seventh house matters, they tend to go like, "Oh, my spouse must be cheating on me." No, your relationship, no, your business partner may be lying to you or talking behind your back. Joe Biden, at least from the chart I have, is a Scorpio um, rising, and he has a lot of people talking negatively about him right now. So that's a fulfillment of that. Even people on his side, people in his own party. Um, Sun is in the third house, a lot of courage for the sign. Saturn's in the fourth house. Saturn's aspecting Jupiter in the sixth house. So again, the sun has to look out a little bit for health-related issues, but they'll be resolved fairly quickly. Uh, Not a good time for this sign to invest. Uh, Watch out for investments; they'll cause either lawsuits or losses. So invest extremely cautiously. For the rest of the chart, K2's in the 11th house of friends, so friends can turn out to be enemies. And that's it for Scorpio. For Sagittarius, Venus, Mercury, Mars, all in the same sign. Venus in Sagittarius is a very strong idealistic placement, so we expect partners to be perfect. Partners aren't always perfect. There'll be relationship problems or arguments with allies, okay? Arguments with partners. And also some dishonesty on the part of partners. So that's something for people to be very careful about with this particular sign. Sun is in the second house, and it makes the sign shine. It makes the sign very prominent. It makes it very open and obvious. Saturn's in the third house, very disciplined. Rahu in the fourth house. The structural integrity of this sign is um, changing. Okay. And when I say structural integrity, I mean its foundation is being called into question. It's dissatisfied with its home, with its residents, with its folks. It's involved in foreign uh, activities. Overall, it'll be lucky, but it'll have to exercise better judgment than it has. Moon is in the sixth, good for overcoming illnesses. So, although there are some stomach related issues for this sign, not as bad as the other signs. K2 is in the 10th. A lot of the actions it takes in the world will be ignored or not paid attention to. For a Capricorn, Capricorn has Sun in the first, Saturn in the second. So, again, some limitations on growth, but financial control and dominance of the world are still guaranteed for this sign. Rahu's in the third house. So, again, a lot of ambition. Jupiter's in the fourth. Good status, good potential for status. Moon is in the fifth. That's actually very good for financial growth and good for relationships. K2's in the ninth house. Unexpected twists and turns at work. And with this Mercury Mars Venus conjunction, again, the risk of overspending for most of the signs is there. I'm not going to lie to you. There's too much debt being acquired by almost every sign. For Aquarius, we have this Sasha Yoga, that strong Saturn combination in the first house. It's pretty similar to what it was last week. And there is desire for more wealth, for more power. Jupiter's in the third house. And this makes Aquarians sort of like leaders in their own little community or in their own little structure. Moon is exalted in the fourth house, so that'll give it a chance to essentially grab or acquire power over the next week. K2 in the eighth really isn't that significant, except relationship partners will seem to be a little bit cranky or difficult to please. Mercury, Venus, Mars in the 10th house, very good for career life, although people may exaggerate their abilities with this combination. Sun is in the 11th house, is in the 12th house. Again, expenses from government. Finally, Pisces and last leg. Rahu is in the first house, desire for money, strong ability to charm and influence people, difficulties with relationship life, a lot of career focus, but again, career success mainly through exaggeration, a lot of financial gains, and some financial expenses. Now let's go to the world map because I don't have that much time left. My apologies. Okay, so and I'm going to try to shift this format around a little bit, maybe next week. All right, so we're seeing Mars and Mercury lines going over Rahu lines. So some real fear in Hawaii. I think there has been more volcanic activity out there, maybe even earthquakes in uh, Alaska. And also this line is heading up through Western Canada. I'm not aware of any volcanoes in Western Canada, but maybe some flooding and definitely some problems with the government in Washington State and Oregon State and throughout California. And there'll be a change of government in, it looks like Nevada, Idaho, and maybe Western Canada. See now. This is a Saturn line running through Texas all the way up through Wisconsin. So these states will be feeling a lot of pressure, possibly because of immigration. I'm not sure about that. There may be also financial pressure on these areas. This is a Venus line running through Mexico down into Central America. And I think this particular line actually indicates some flooding potential or some bad weather potential for this part of the world. There's a Mercury line running right through Mercury Rahu line running right through New York and right through Washington, D.C., which indicates people are going to be lying like crazy down into the Virgin Islands, down into Cuba, down into Panama, down into Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela, oh God, and Chile. Chile is going to have. So this entire box is going to be a political scandal after political scandal all the way down here, all the way down through Argentina. Sun, Jupiter, uh, Guyana is going to be facing some governmental crises. So looks like Uruguay. And this moon line isn't really touching anything, so we'll just not talk about it. There have been more volcanoes in Iceland, and we've seen that before, and I've spoken about this before. So Mars, there's a Sun-Mars line here. Mars, Mercury, governmental scandals in Spain, Libya, all through down through the Congo, down through South Africa. Okay, there's this Sun line, increased governmental authority in Germany, all the way down through Italy and Greece and Egypt. Uh, there's a Rahu line passing through Greece and Eastern Europe and down through Central Africa, all the way down to South Africa. And I think that indicates a kind of a government crisis or government scandals in this part of the world, governmental scandals in Algeria too. There's a Jupiter line running right through Western Turkey. Some governmental scandals in Turkey, but not as big as the other ones. And there's a Jupiter line running through Western Turkey and through Saudi Arabia. And this indicates to me more repressive government moves down through Mozambique, Angola, and into Madagascar. Um, the moon is going over uh, Ukraine, so there's a lot of focus on Ukraine. There's a lot of focus on uh, Pakistan and Afghanistan, Saturn line. There is brewing war in this part of the world. This is one of the lesser known world stories. And again, United States attacked Yemen. Um, so uh, those are stories we're going to have to pay close attention to. But this line over here, this Saturn line, isn't good. Over here we have a Venus line running through Bangladesh, China, and Russia. So this indicates flooding more or less. And so we go over here, governmental scandals in Vietnam, Cambodia, China, Borneo, Indonesia, and even hitting Australia and Japan. Now there's a Jupiter line running up through Japan, so that means they could be recovering from their current flows, but they could be having some problems too. And finally, New Zealand has sort of a Saturn line running through it or close to it. So this could indicate kind of a government shutdown over there. So that's it for this week. I look forward to seeing you next week. I'll probably go on the air during the week. And I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Thank you all so much. Bye-bye. See you next week.